All right. So what do you think of the daily routine? How many of you have lived or worked in a major city where, and I don't count Harrisburg as a major city, by the way, a major city where most people take mass transit to get to work? I see a hand back there. I've been in the D.C. area. Or if you were maybe just in a major city watching people go to work. I've been in New York a few different times when people are heading into rush hour. So with that, I want you to kind of envision, okay? Take a moment. I want you to picture in your mind a packed subway, or a bus, or a train heading into a major city, carrying people into their daily jobs. Get that vision in your mind, however you picture that. So as you're picturing this image in your mind, do you have the picture? Do you have that image? How many people in your image are smiling? It is interesting because I'm betting, just by the snickers, I'm betting that most of you did not picture people smiling on their way to work. Now, I do know a lot of people are able to work from home or remotely now, ever since the COVID pandemic started making that more normal than it used to be, as companies kind of try to find ways to stay open when they were told everyone needed to stay apart. Now, my daughter's company sold their office space and all their employees still work from home, even now. They actually get together once a month in person. So, and I also remember after that first month or two of COVID that some people missed going into the office and talking to coworkers and stuff like that. People were starting to miss the human interaction and relationships, because human beings were created to be in community and not in isolation. Now that restrictions have been lifted, more and more people are commuting back to work. We are kind of back into the daily routine. We also kind of get that way after summer. Once September gets here, people get back into that daily routine. And then people are grumbling about going to work. So I'm going to kind of read a long passage today from King Solomon. I want you to try to follow along and see if you actually get the point that King Solomon is saying. We're going to look at Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verses 17 through 26. 17 through 26. What a way to start. So I hated life, because the work that is done under the sun was grievous to me. All of it is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. I hated all the things I toiled for under the sun, because I must leave them to one who comes after me. And who knows whether that person will be wise or foolish. Yet they will have control over all the fruit of my toil, in which I have poured my effort and skill under the sun. This too is meaningless. So my heart began to despair over all my toilsome labor under the sun. For a person may labor with wisdom, knowledge, and skill, and then they must leave all they own to another who has not toiled for it. This too is meaningless and a great misfortune. What do people get for all the toil and anxious striving with which they labor under the sun? All their days their work is grief and pain. Even at night their minds do not rest. This too is meaningless. A person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own toil. This too, I see, is from the hand of God. For without Him, who can eat or find enjoyment? To the person who pleases Him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner He gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth, the hand it over to the one who pleases God. This too is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. And you'll kind of notice this theme kind of goes with last week's message of hoarders, right? We were talking about amassing stuff and keeping stuff and how much that accumulated. Now, if you look at this passage, it can kind of be broken down into two parts. I don't know if you caught that as I was reading it, but verses 17 through 23 go together, and verses 24 through 26 go together. And I hope you were able to pick up on that. Now, this is written by King Solomon. King Solomon was known for his wisdom, his wealth, and known for being a great leader. And I also notice that Solomon learned from his wisdom that life is meaningless when you are living for the wrong reasons. Now, the first part of this passage, Solomon is talking about that he hated life. What a way to start the passage off, right? I hate life. Because, as he's talking about why he hated life, because all the work and toil that he did, he's saying it meant nothing. Now, we got to remember, King Solomon achieved great things, but he still thought it all meant nothing. And he sums it up by saying that everything that he toiled for and accomplished would eventually be left for someone else. Because this kind of supports the old saying, you can't take it with you. Or the joke I made last week that I've never seen a hearse with a U-Haul behind it. So, as King Solomon comes to the realization that all the work and all the rewards will eventually go to somebody else, he points out that you don't know if that person will be wise or if they will be foolish. So what are we toiling for? Why are we putting in all the hard work to achieve our accomplishments and success if in the end it all goes to someone else? Now you might be thinking, a lot of us who have children, we're hoping that maybe we can give our children a better life than we had, or at least give them a better start than what we started with. And that is a good motive. I mean, how many of you have that plan, right? Our goal is to give our kids something better, something more than we had. And it's a good motive. But King Solomon is kind of right. That if they are a fool, they will lose everything that we leave to them quickly. It says a fool and their money are soon parted. Right? So it's not enough to, leave stuff for our kids. We have to also teach them so that money lasts them and they can pass something on to their kids. But this is a time as parents you can kind of be honest. So do you think your child is wise or foolish? That might tell you, is this meaningless or not? And I see some children looking at their parents and wondering what kind of thoughts they're getting out of that. And don't ask a question you don't want the real answer to, right? But no, that's what Solomon is saying. No matter everything I'm accumulating is going to go to somebody else. If they're foolish, they're going to lose them. If they're wise, they may build upon that for their children and so much. So Solomon wraps up the first part of this passage with the question of why do we toil? What does man toil for? What does it accomplish? And then why are they anxious and striving for what all is going to lead to this great misfortune under the sun? It says, why are you accumulating? Why are you working hard and doing all this if in the end you can't take it with you? So I kind of think, how many think that's a depressing thought? Yeah? No? Okay. How many aren't going to raise their hand no matter what kind of question? Right? How many want apple dumplings? We'll see if we can get any hand raised for that, right? So yeah, it's kind of a depressing thought. And we need to understand that when we're reading this, how many of you did my teaser video? 1, 2, okay, 2. Because what I told you to do is when you're reading this, when you're reading King Solomon, you kind of need to read it out loud. Because really what's going on is this is King Solomon talking to himself. He's trying to just reason out. How many of you have ever talked to yourself and you try to weigh out a situation, right? Right? So some of you do that, yeah. And it's interesting because when people who don't know me meet me for the first time, or Usually when, see, I know every church council I've ever sat on the first couple times, people think I'm yelling. I'm loud. How many of you realize I'm loud? And there's another thing. I'm an outward processor. And do you know the difference between inward and outward processors? Inward processor takes it in and processes it, and takes them a day or two, and then they come up with a great solution. Outward processes, we need to hear it out. So I will talk and ask questions for me to process quickly what the discussion is. And some people feel, because I'm loud and I'm asking questions, that I'm yelling. And that's not the case. I'm an outward processor. King Solomon is being an outward processor here. He is talking it out in his head. Now, if I did this, or if I'm doing that, and if this goes this way, and for me, I have to hear the things to be able to weigh the pros and cons. And if you're that type of person, then you can understand, reading King Solomon here, you see that he's weighing the pros and cons. He's just talking it out. As he's talking it out in his head, he's trying to figure out the purpose of why the toil and why the hard work. Why is he doing all of this? And I'm sure some of you have had questions about something, and you're trying to figure out why, and you're talking it out, or you're bouncing it off a spouse or whatever. So this is what we have King Solomon. And as we walk through these things and these situations ourselves, trying to make sense of it all, that's what we see here. Now, the second part of this passage, remember I said you have 17 through 23. He's talking it out. Verses 24 to 26, he kind of figures out the solution. He figures out the answer of what he is struggling with. He realizes that man can do nothing better. I think he starts it out on verse 24. Man can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in his work. The reward of life is work. The blessing is life. And the journey is the purpose. So if you think about why God has us here on earth, is our reward is being able to work. The blessing is being able to live life. And the journey of growing, maturing, and aging, that is the whole purpose. Because the work, the food, the drink, the achievements, all those blessings are from God. God has given them all to us. Now we need to understand it's not everything that we amass that we're going to give to somebody else when we die. That's not the purpose. It's the process of doing what God has prepared you for and enjoying everything that God has given you. How many of you enjoy eating? I'm a big fan. Big fan, right? I enjoy eating. How many of you have activities you enjoy doing? How many of you actually enjoy your job? There's some people, the retirees, yes, I enjoy my job. I'm retired. Woo-hoo. But no, there's some people, I always tell my daughter, I said, when you find a job you enjoy doing, stick with it. Because that's the purpose. You're supposed to, when you do the work, you enjoy what you do, that's the purpose in life. So we need to understand that God has given all these experiences, and that's the blessings He's given us as we go through this process or this journey. If we get caught up on the things we want to get, we miss the joy of the journey of getting there. You may achieve some success, and we may leave some nice things to our children, but we got to realize that we were blessed along the way. The Lord continues to bless us on a daily basis. If you are living a life for God, then you will enjoy the toil. Because through the toil, God gives us wisdom, knowledge, happiness. Think about all the knowledge you've gained throughout your life. Those who are older have gained a lot more knowledge than those who are younger. As we continue to grow, if you have children and you start seeing them gain wisdom, start making wise decisions, not doing the same mistakes they did a few years earlier because they got smarter. I loved when my daughter finally got to the point where finances. If I'm putting money in retirement plans and saving for kids' college education, I'm like, yes. Yes, it's not about a new purse. Start thinking about, investments and all these different things. So seeing that growth, that wisdom, that knowledge, because, when they start to learn that, have anybody figured out when they start to learn that?
Too late.
When they need to pay their own bills.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you learn when you're like, oh man, if I don't pay this, I have no electricity next month. Hey, you start learning how to budget. Yes, you learn how it all just doesn't grow on trees. And, well, actually paper, but anyway. So that whole enjoyment of the process, gaining the wisdom, the knowledge, the happiness that comes with when we enjoy those things, that all comes from the blessings from God. But the sinner who's living for material things and the things he's going to gather, he will hand in all that stuff over to whomever God chooses to receive that in the end. So we really need to think about our daily routine and our journey. How many of you are people that really have a routine? I mean, if anyone ever wants to kill me, they know exactly where I'm going to be at different times. 7:30, he heads out for his run. He gets back about this time. He showers. They say change your routine. I'm a dead man. It's so easy to find me. I have that daily routine. I have that journey. I have my checklist in the morning of things I want to get done. Maybe your day would not be so dreadful if we start looking for the blessings that God gives us on our daily routines, right? The things that we just take for granted. You start to notice the ways that God's blessing you. Everything I try to, when I go running every morning, I always make sure I say hi to everybody, right? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Some say hi and some have all those headphones in and they never hear me or whatever. But I get to see deer. I get to see sheep now, because they have sheep eating the grass around the solar panels in Dickinson Field. So I get to see sheep in the morning. The other day, actually kind of freaked me out. My foot was coming down as I was running, and a mouse went right under it. I kind of had to, because I almost stepped on it. I would have really felt bad if I stepped on a field mouse out in a trail. But yeah, I mean, that was different, kind of different blessing. I was like, oh, that's cute. It wasn't a snake, so I'm happy with that. So the people that as we think about God's blessings or that He gives us daily, it's the people you encounter. It's the projects that you complete. It's the perks that you receive. It's the meals that you eat. It's the friends that you hang out with. All of this is part of the toil and the benefits that God has provided for us. Now, if your image during the opening of commuters going to work didn't have a smiling face, maybe now it should at least have one smiling face. Yours. So the purpose or meaning of life is all determined by who you are living it for. If you are toiling in despair and think life is meaningless, you kind of need to change your motive. If you're living for God, you are thankful you have a job to go to. You're happy that you have food on your table and drink on your table. You get to go to your own home, then you're thankful that you have roof, you have heat, you have air conditioning, you have whatever that you have at your home. Now, I'm not saying life is easy, but when we're living for God, we are enjoying the toil because He is blessing us along the way. Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, as we look at this passage, I hope it opens up all of our minds about the blessings around us every day. And when we have a daily routine, that doesn't mean it's a rut. It means it's a way that God put regular people in our path, in our process, people that we encounter, people at work, and all of those are blessings. We saw during COVID how isolation was not a very good situation to be in. So all those people we see, we run into, is all part of the community. As human beings, we need to be part of it. So don't think of your daily routine as a daily rut. Enjoy the toil because God is blessing you all along the way. It is in powerful and holy name. Amen.